Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you. And I'm Liz Krueger, the state senator. And today's webinar on this very hot July day is on Healthy Homes 101. I hope everybody is in some kind of air conditioning because that's pretty much the only way to be surviving this weather on Friday, July 14th. Just as a reminder, we always remind people that if you're watching on Zoom or Facebook, you can adjust for closed captioning of the event to help you if you're having any issues hearing. If you're on Facebook Live, you'll see a setting button on the bottom right corner of the video that you click on CC for closed captioning to activate the process. If you're in a Zoom, click on live transcript in the meeting controls, and you will start to see the closed captioning. This forum is being recorded, and everyone who RSVP'd will receive an email with a link to the event and the resources that are posted in the chat within a few days, along with the presenters' PowerPoints. So even though we'll put lots of information in the chat about resources and specific sites and phone numbers that they might speak about in their presentation, don't worry, you don't have to scribble everything down because you'll be getting a video of the same thing from today and you'll have access to all that information. Now we're going to move on to the event. Today's roundtable, as I said, is titled Healthy Homes 101. I know that many of you call my office with concerns about mold, pest infestation, and general home safety issues, including the impact that extreme heat can have on vulnerable populations. Oh yes, keep drinking water. Even if you don't think that you've been sweating a lot, in this kind of temperature you are, so it's crucial that everybody keep themselves well hydrated with other liquids, but water is actually best. Today's speakers will cover how to recognize and address all these conditions in your home and what conditions your landlord is legally required to address for you if there's a problem. First, we'll be hearing from Denise Johnson and Tonya Hollingsworth, who are public health educators at the New York City Department of Health in the Education and Community Partnership Division. Certainly the public health specialists in our city, state, and country have their work cut out for them the last couple of years. After the Healthy Homes presentation, we will hear from Joseph Schofield, Senior Staff Attorney in the Legal Health Division of the New York Legal Assistance Group, NYLAG. He will provide information about the conditions your landlord is required to address. Just one footnote, Joseph was an intern in my office many years ago, so I'm so glad he could be here with us today. And I'm so glad that he's been so successful focusing on public service law. After the presentations, I will moderate a Q&A portion of today's events. Many people already submitted questions, but if you have additional ones that come to you as you're listening, you can type them into the Q&A section. And if we have a chance to get to them, we will do so. And if the presenters actually think they know an answer, maybe just respond to you right away. All right, so we're going to start with Denise Johnson and Tonya Hollingsworth. Good morning, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember to put your mute off and your picture on.
Good morning, Senator. Thank
Good
you
morning.
for having us.
Good morning.
Show is yours.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Hey, good morning, everyone. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. Thanks again. I am Denise. So today we will be focusing on healthy homes. I will be presenting on that, and my coworker Tonya, she will go over some summer heat tips to keep you safe during this summer. So I'm going to further ado turn it over to my coworker Tonya.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So we are going to touch first on heat, and we're going to focus on being a buddy and how we can ensure that our family and friends are safe during these times of extreme heat. So we're focused on heat in New York. We're going to talk about staying safe, some information on power outages. We have a wonderful program called HEAP, Home Emergency Assistance Program. And then finally, again, we're going to focus on being a buddy. And that is really making sure that we reach out to our family, friends, and community to make sure they stay safe during these times of extreme heat. So we know extreme heat is occurring. We walk out the door and we can feel it. New York summers are getting hotter. We know the number of days in which temperatures will reach over 90 degrees are increasing. 3 or more days are considered a heat wave. And as a result, the main point that I want you to understand is that extreme heat can kill. So, who is most at risk during these times? Well, first, it's people who do not have an air conditioner. And as the senator said, make sure you keep that on to make sure you stay cool during these times. But who else is at risk? So let's take a look at this list, and we'll see that it's people that have chronic health conditions, people that might be using alcohol excessively, some people that might have some mental health issues, dementia, socially isolate themselves, have limited mobility, and of course, that community of older adults that are 60 years and over. So the key is to make sure that they are safe during this time. So why are older adults at risk? Well, again, we know that older adults sometimes have chronic conditions that put them at risk. The medicine that they're taking, just their ability to actually deal with these extreme heats because their body composition is different. Again, that ability to not recognize thirst, communication problem, again, if you suffer from a mental illness or if you have dementia. The fact that people don't have air conditioners due to limited income. And again, social isolation. As our community gets older, some people are isolating themselves. They're staying inside, especially due to COVID, or that lack of family and friends. So what do we know about the effects of heat on our body? So let's take a look at it. The first one is heat illness, the inability of our body to deal with these extreme temperatures. As a result, it can it really exacerbate problems that we're having medically if we have medical problems, and it can put people at higher risk. So, let's take a look at 3 main things that happen with extreme heat. The first thing is signs of heat stroke. Heat stroke. So pay attention to these signs: hot, dry skin, confusion, hallucinations, being unresponsive, nausea, vomiting, trouble breathing, rapid or strong pulse, and weakness and feeling dizzy. What I want you to realize is that the normal body sweats. We sweat. While it's not attractive, it occurs. But if a person is not sweating, that tells us that their organs are not working. That's a really key sign that we need to be aware of. So signs of heat stroke requires that we call 911 immediately. And then we have heat exhaustion, sorry. So when you suffer from heat exhaustion, while it's less serious than a heat stroke, we do know that this can actually result in a heat stroke. So be aware again of how the temperature plays an effect on your skin. It might be cool and moist. Now you might have heavy sweating, muscle cramps, You might suffer from a headache or feeling dizzy, lightheadedness. Your energy is decreased. That loss of appetite will occur, and then you have thirst. So again, be aware of what's going on in your body and know that heat exhaustion can result in a heat stroke. And again, recognize what's going on in your body and always know that you can call 911 for assistance. And then we have heat cramps. So these cramps often results in our legs and our arms and our stomach muscles feeling painful. We might suffer from spasms. And again, these heat cramps can result in heat exhaustion. And then as a result, might cause a stroke. So the most important thing I want you to know is that your body is communicating with you. We have to listen to our body, especially during these times of extreme heat, because we do know that extreme heat can kill. So how do we prevent heat illness? Well, first one is have an air conditioner and use it. A lot of us will have the air conditioner in our house and we don't want to use it. It's there to be used, so use it. Also, we want you to know that New York City provides a whole host of different areas in your community that you can stay cool. Cooling centers. You can go to your library, museum, mall, or you can call 311 to find out additional information. Spend time with your family and friends that might have an air conditioner. Really, I mean, that's why we talk about being a buddy. So reach out to your family and friends during this time if you don't have an air conditioner in your home. Of course, drink plenty of water. We can't stress that enough. Pay attention to your need. If you're thirsty, that's a sign that it's too late. So always drink water during this time. If you need to, take a shower or a bath to cool yourself down. Avoid using your stove and ovens during this time, in addition to drinking alcohol, caffeine, or beverages that have a lot of sugar. Wear loose-fitting clothes, so the air can circulate and keep your homes cool. So let's focus on New York City and what we are doing to take action in these times of extreme heat. So you'll see here again, call 311 and they will be able to let you know where a cooling center can be found in your neighborhood, or you can visit New York City Cooling Center Finder, and that is another way that you can find a center in your neighborhood. We also have alerts, Notify NYC, which I think worked this morning when it told us that we were having rain in certain areas, and Cool It New York City, again, outdoor cooling sites. So let's focus on New York again and talk about the past, when we had blackouts. And you'll see here one of the headlines from the Daily News. And this is an issue when we think about extreme heat and people using air conditioners to stay cool, that we might have a power outage. And this is really important in the older community because some people require medical equipment. So we do know that power outages can increase the need for an ambulance due to that loss of AC, especially if people have health conditions where the problems might be exacerbated by the heat. So you see down here people with electric medical equipment. It's really key to let you know that you have to plan for a backup. So the key is, one, register with your utility company so that they know you have this equipment in your home. And then I want you to make a plan. And what the great thing is, again, is that New York City provides you the tools. So I want you to go to Ready New York and you can make a plan. This site will provide you with the keys, the tools to set up a plan if you have life-saving equipment during an outage that needs that backup. So again, you have to register with your utility provider, have that plan. You might have to set up an alternate backup source of electrical power. so that you know that your family members, you are safe just in case something like this happens. In addition to setting up a plan, if you require those life-saving equipment to make sure that they stay available and used during these times of extreme heat, I will tell everyone that you have to set up your emergency preparedness kit. And this is key for everyone. We should have this as a backup because you just never know what's going to happen. So what should be in that kit? Well, you want to have at least 1 gallon of water per person for at least 3 days. You want to make sure you have a source of non-perishable food. You want to make sure you have 3-day supply of medication. Make sure, again, in this time where we're all using our phone, you want to make sure that you have a battery-powered radio that works, and make sure you have your flashlight. Again, a lot of us rely on our phone for flashlights. You want to make sure you actually have a good old school flashlight with batteries as backup in your home, and make sure, again, you have extra batteries. And I can't stress this enough, but never use candles because they are a fire hazard. Again, we have information here, and you'll have this PowerPoint to access for information because we have a whole trove of information on these slides for you. Again, can't stress enough the importance of having an air conditioner. Is the most effective way to prevent heat illness and death. Like, we know extreme heat is an issue in New York, so air conditioners are the best way to prevent it from happening. And we can make sure that we are safe. So what I like about New York is that, again, we have the tools to assist you. We have a wonderful program called Home Emergency Assistance Program, HEAP. And what we just found out, my coworker Denise found out that today is the last day. So you still have time to apply. Your application has to be postmarked today, but this is a program that can assist you. We can provide up to $800 for air conditioning plus installation, and it's a great way to assist low-income families, again, making sure that we are all safe during these times of extreme heat. We have the number here, 311, or you can call 718-557-1399. But again, today is the last day to apply to this program. So really, after this presentation, go to the website and apply. And again, can't stress enough the importance of being a buddy. So what do we mean by being a buddy? Well, we want you to check in on your family, your friends, your neighbors. This is a way that our community can work together. So if you know that you have someone on your floor, an older adult that might not get out, might not be able to get out due to these extreme heat conditions, knock on their door and see if they need assistance. Make sure they have enough water. Make sure they have those tools just in case a power outage occurs. Make sure the air condition works and they're using the air condition. So check on our neighbors, check on our family, friends, make that call. Be a buddy. And this is a great way, again, to ensure that our community is safe, and especially the older adults in our community are safe. And then finally, again, reach out, be a buddy. When we have the air conditioner, set your AC to 78 degrees or low cool. This is a way, again, because times of extreme heat means that everyone will be using their air condition. So again, 78 or low cool. This is a way that everybody is on the same page, and we can make sure we don't really put a lot of stress on our electrical system. If you don't have an air condition, again, you have that wonderful program, HEAP, last day is today, or you can visit someone that has an air condition, and be aware if you don't have that connection with family and friends in your community, please call 311 so you can find out the variety of cooling centers that we have in the city. And again, our older adults are at risk because of medical issues, because how their body might actually, how it is affected by the heat. So make sure, again, they are using their air conditioning, make sure you're checking in on them. And then finally, as I stated earlier, be aware of what your body is telling you. Be aware of those signs that you might be having a heat stroke. You might be suffering from heat exhaustion. You might be suffering from cramps. Be aware of those signs because one leads to the next. And we do not want you to have a medical condition in which you will end up in the hospital. So be aware of what your body is telling you. Pay attention to the signs, drink lots of water, stay well hydrated, and use your air conditioner because air conditioners save lives. And we know that extreme temperature kills. So in summary, reach out, be a buddy. Let's work together as a community to ensure that every member in our community is safe during these times of extreme heat. Thank you. And finally, there's a lot of resources, as I said, and the senator stated that we will provide this information to you in the chat, and you'll also have this information available to you after the presentation. But just know that the city has a whole host of tools and references to help you for heat safety and power outages. So we are working together to ensure that we are all safe during this time. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Tonya, for that presentation. So hopefully we're able to take away some tips to keep you safe this summer. So now I'm going to be presenting on Healthy Homes 101 overview. We're going to recognize some in-home dangers in the home. And these are some of the issues that older adults might face living in the home. So as we know, we are having a nation that is experiencing a lot of older adults living much longer. So as we look at this graph here, we see for the first time that older adults are going to actually outnumber the number of younger children. There was a time there was a growth of young children younger than 5, where their numbers were higher than older adults. So now older adults are living longer, they're living healthier lifestyles, opposed to, we have more knowledge in terms of what smoking may do to people. So back in the 1940s, Hollywood, everyone thought it was cool to smoke. It was the thing to do. But as we got educated and we learned more, people stopped smoking because they see that there are risks from smoking, how it can affect them. So with people also now exercising, there are a lot of seniors or older adults that go out early in the morning. Sometimes they go to the mall and they just walk around. So some of these things are improving. So we see that we do have an aging nation and they are living longer. So with that in mind, with older adults, our goal is to live independently. You want to, we have older adults who are doing things. They may not need homemakers. They may not need to go to nursing homes, and they are living independently on their own. So if you're going to be spending a great deal of time in your home, and especially when COVID started and everybody was mandated to be inside, you want to make sure that your home environment is safe for you. You want to make sure you're able to move around. You're not bumping into something, that it's clean, it's not dusty, because all those different things can aggravate, especially if you're asthmatic. So things like that, you want to make sure that your home is safe for you. So like I said, with older adults, we want to make sure with their quality of life that they are able to live independently in a clean, safe home environment. So healthy homes. With older adults, you want to look at how well does your home meet your needs. So by the end of today's presentation, we will look at to see, what are some things that you can do. So as I mentioned, we see people are now spending more time indoor than ever before. So especially now with the temperatures high, you may not want to go outside, although the pandemic is like slowly, well, we're like at the end of it. You do have some people who are still afraid to go out. Some people just like being home. So you want to make sure if you are in your home that if it's poorly maintained, that can be a hazardous to residents, can be hazardous to yourself as well, other tenements in the building. And as we know, home health hazards may lead to illness, such as asthma, allergies, or other injuries. So if you have a lot of clutter inside, you might get up, trip, and that can lead to an injury, and then you might have to end up going to the hospitals. Also fire and poisoning. So we're going to look at all these different areas to see the different hazards that can contribute if a home is poorly maintained. So there are 5 key messages we like to look at to keep your home healthy and safety. So 1, you want to make sure that you are controlling mold by reducing moisture, that you do keep your home clean and safe. 3, that you do have safety devices, that you prevent falls from happening, and that if you do have a problem with pests, that you are controlling it safely. So healthy homes, as we can see from this picture here, there's a leak. From this one problem with a leak can turn into many different issues in a home. So one water leak can turn into a problem with mold growth if that leak is not fixed. You can also have a problem with pests because now the pests, they have a source of water. And also it can turn into pill and paint, which can be a lead hazard. Some of the different health effects that you can get just from having this one water leak. So if you have now the problem with mold, you can have allergic reaction, you can have problems with asthma. Also, if from that one water leak, you can have a problem with pests being in a home, and that can also trigger asthma with someone who is asthmatic or someone that might have other respiratory issues. And also with lead paint hazards, it can affect children. So if you have your grandchildren that come over, or let's say if you're babysitting someone's children and you have water that comes down and now, the paint is getting deteriorated. And if that paint contains lead and that lead dust, young children, they can be exposed. And now they can, if there are lead poison, then they can have an issue with learning behavioral problems as well. They can also be health issues in adults. So as you can see, one problem in the home, if it's not maintained, can exacerbate and turn into many other issues. So one of the things you want to do is to control mold in a home. So the key to mold control is reducing moisture. Mold, it loves water, it loves moisture. That's what it thrives on. And so what do we know about mold? There are some people who are allergic or sensitive to mold. Some people, if they walk into a building or a room and they are highly allergic and they walk in and there's a very bad mold in that place, some people will break out in hives. Some people are very sensitive. So we know that mold is a fungus. It's in the indoor environment. It could be indoors, outdoors, but it needs food and water to grow. It has an earthy, stale smell. So if you ever go in a place like a basement and there's a problem with mold, you can just smell mold sometimes. It has that strong smell. And it comes in different colors. So sometimes we're used to seeing black mold or white mold, but it also can be blue, green, yellow, and it comes in different colors. And mold, it usually likes to grow in damp places. So anywhere where there is moisture and high humidity, you can find mold. Examples are especially in bathrooms, kitchens, and anywhere where there's leaks. Also basements. Those basements sometimes are normally damp. So those are areas where you can find mold. So this is how you can recognize mold. So a lot of times the first picture you see there, that is black mold that is not healthy for you. As you can see, that's a problem that has spread and has got out of hand. And a lot of times like this looks like it's in a bathroom where if there was some type of leak and the leak was never fixed, the mold would continue to grow. We have seen property owners where, at the Department of Health, we get a lot of calls and people would say, oh, I have a mold problem, but all the property owner did was slap paint on the walls. That's not going to solve the mold because the mold is still going to be behind the wall growing. So as long as if there was a leak, if that leak is not fixed, the mold will continue to grow because it's going to thrive on that moisture and the humidity. So the property owner would have to, hire someone professionally to come get rid of that mold because it can be hazardous to your health. especially if you have respiratory issues. It's not healthy for you to breathe in the different spores from the mold. Another example how we can recognize mold is sometimes if you ever go to make a sandwich and you're ready to bite the sandwich till you flip it over and you realize there's mold. So as you can see on this piece of bread, you can see that it's green and white. You know, sometimes you can also find mold on some fruit, you know, anything where there's moisture, and if it stays out too long and it's high temperatures, heat and humidity, it can go bad and you can experience mold. Another place you might find mold, as you can see in the last picture, is in this tub, and it's around the rim of the tub. So those are areas that you will find mold, especially in the bathroom. So I just want to point out, if you do happen to have a mold problem, and let's say it's something around the tub rim, those are small areas. So if you have that's something as a tenant, you can use a mixture of some safe stuff to clean that. I will talk about that in a moment. But if you have a problem, let's say with mold, and let's say, because we do get a lot of people who call and say, oh, I have mold around the rim of my tub. So let's say if you notify your property owner and they didn't fix it, sometimes people call 311. Housing Preservation Development, they will not come out for little areas like this around the tub. What they will come out for is if your property don't fix the first picture that I show you, because that's a large area that is something that a tenant themselves would not be able to fix. That's something that a property owner would have to fix. So I will come back to how you can deal with small areas of mold. So some of the things that you can do to reduce mold in the home, you want to make sure that you improve ventilation in the bathroom and kitchen. So especially if you're showering or if you're cooking, you want to make sure you open windows, sometimes turn on a vent, make sure that those vents are clean and that there's not dust buildup, because otherwise you're blowing out dust. So you want to make sure that, like I said, if you take a shower, crack open the door anywhere that you can reduce the humidity in that room. If you have small areas, you can clean those areas with soap and water and let them dry. Something that we also suggest for small areas, you can use, you know, we were always taught, or a lot of people, we were taught to use bleach to kill everything. The problem with bleach does not eradicate the mold. It does not get rid of it effectively. It will only remove mold on the surface. To effectively get rid of mold, it has to be killed at the membrane. So we learned that using baking soda, a half a cup of baking soda, a half a cup of white distilled vinegar with water, put it in a bottle, put it in a spray bottle, spray those small little areas, and do not get discouraged because mold can be hard to get rid of. You might want to take a toothbrush and scrub those areas, repeat the process at least maybe 3 times a week until you see that the mold has gone. But make sure when you are, wearing protective gear, that you're wearing waterproof gloves to make sure that your hands are covered. You might want to put on a mask as well. Some people like to put on goggles so stuff is not splashing in their eyes. And like I said, that's for small areas of mold. If you report an issue to your property owner, they don't fix it, please call 311. So if you want more information on mold prevention and cleanup, you can visit our website. Like I said, we will send you out a copy of this. So if you don't get a chance to copy down the website, there's no issue. And I also just want to go over something. It's not on the slides, but I just want to mention there is local law 55 of 2018. And basically with that law, New York City law requires landlords, property owners of buildings with 3 or more apartments of any size where a tenant has asthma to take steps to keep tenants home free of pests and mold. This includes safely fixing the condition that caused these problems. So if you are a tenant and if, let's say, you do have asthma, persistent asthma, and you have a problem with pests in the home, including mice and roaches, and your property owner is not fixing the issue, you can go to your doctor and have your doctor refer you to the Healthy Neighborhoods Program, also referred to as HNP, where your doctor will fill out a referral, send it to the Department of Health. where then inspector, they will go over their paperwork, they will come out to the home, and let's say if there is a problem with mold, they will work with the property owner to find out where is the mold coming from, so that they will look at the root of the problem so that the mold does not come back. And because it is a health issue, the property owner knows that they have to fix this issue. So that is for people that have persistent chronic asthma and a problem either with mold or pests in a home. And it's called the Healthy Neighborhoods Program. You can always call 311 and they can refer you as well to that site, or they can get information that you can give to your doctor. So now I'm going to go into cleaning your home safely, some things that you should know. Like I said, if you're spending all your time in the home, you want to make sure that your home is clean safely. You're spending great deals of the time. Nobody, wants to walk in home. It's dusty. And I understand as you get older, sometimes it's hard to clean up your home. So some people might be eligible for a homemaker. If you meet those requirements, who can come and help, or maybe you have a neighbor or friend or family that can also help you if you're not able to clean. But it is very important that you do maintain a clean environment because it can play a role in your health. So you want to make sure that you reduce your risk of being exposed to home hazards such as mold, dust, mice, or asthma. If you're ever going into someone's home and it's full of dust, if you ever shake the lampshade and you ever see dust particles go all over. So you can imagine if you have respiratory issues, that dust can get into your, your system and now aggravate your condition. So it's very important that you do maintain a clean environment. And also you want to make sure that your home is clean to prevent the spread of germs in your home. So one of the things that's very important when you are buying cleaning products, you want to become a label reader. You want to make sure that you do buy products that they are meant what they're for. So if you want to disinfect, you don't want to buy something that's just used to clean, because there is a difference between cleaning and disinfecting. Cleaning gets rid of dirt and germs. If you go on to disinfect, that gets rid of bacteria and viruses that can spread, can lead you to illness. So if you are buying a product, you want to make sure that it's intended for what you need it for, and that you do use your product safely. So if it says to dilute, if you have to use bleach and use it for a disinfectant something, you want to make sure that you do dilute it. You don't want to use it at full strength. It's also important that you apply the amount that is required. You don't want to apply too much because, you could damage surfaces or things like that. And that you do store products safely. Follow first aid instructions and know the numbers where to call in case of an emergency. So something else important when you are using cleaning products, you want to make sure that you do keep children safe. You want to keep those products up high. So if you have grandchildren that come over, or even if you have pets in your home, you want to make sure you keep those products up high, out of reach in children, in a locked cabinet. You also want to, it's very important to store cleaning products in its original containers. I can't stress that enough. I know a lot of times we go to warehouses and sometimes we buy the big containers and it might be hard to pour. But what happens is if you pour that product in another bottle and something happens, now you don't no longer may have the ingredients. You might have someone come to your house or children come by, pick it up, because there are a lot of mismatched products that look kind of similar. For example, in this picture here, you see where Windex could be the same color as blue Gatorade. Pine Sol could be the same color as apple juice as well. A lot of times people like to use the different cleaners that smell good, but some of them can also be the same color as flavored drinks. And if you have a children that's coming over, grandchildren come over, or someone comes over, they'll pick up the bottle and not realize that, let's say this bottle is supposed to be something, or they'll just think, oh, it's something for me to drink, and not realize that you pour a cleaner in this bottle and they drink it and now they could become poison. So you just want to make sure that you do keep products in the containers that they came in. And store those products separately from household cleaners, because if you bag bread together with, cleaning products, it can absorb those smells from the chemicals. Like I always hate going to the grocery store and when they bag stuff and hit bread with soap, and now my bread is smelling like soap. So those are some of the things just to keep in mind when you are buying products and you are cleaning your home. So some of the things you can do, like I mentioned, be a label reader, stay away from products that says poison and danger. You want to look for stuff that might be more healthier or cleaner to use, especially if you have asthma or other respiratory issues. Make sure you protect yourself, wear gloves. And something that I must really stress, never to mix bleach with any other chemical, especially ammonia, because it can produce a toxic gas that will be harmful for you. So if you do have to use bleach, please make sure that you do use it separately and never to mix it with other cleaning agents, and to keep all products away from children and pets. So the next thing, in terms of maintaining a safe home environment, you want to control pests safely. If you happen to have a problem with pests in the home, you want to safely get rid of roaches and mice. Having pests in your home can do a lot of things. They can contaminate your food. And I know with today's food prices, people don't have money to constantly replace food. So you want to make sure that you do, when you do have food in your home, especially stuff like rice, flour, you want to keep those in containers that have a lid, something like glass, metal, something where a rodent cannot bite through to those objects and contaminate your food. Pests, they like to go in dog food or cat food. So if you have those big bags, you want to store those in something where pests cannot get into it, because they love dog food. And then now if they got in, you're going to have to throw that away. They can also damage your homes. Mice, sometimes they like to nibble on wires. They can get into vents and they can damage your home. If you have asthma, they can worsen your symptoms, as well cause allergic reactions. So as you can see, pests in your home, they can cause a lot of different problems for you. So you want to make sure if you do have this issue that you deal with it in a safe way. So what we like to focus on is IPM, which is the Integrated Pest Management System. Basically, this is a practical approach of dealing with pests through methods that are safe for your family. At the end of the day, you want to create a healthier home environment. So some of the recommendations with IPM is supposed to be more cost effective. So this way, if there is a problem, if you take these steps, you won't have to constantly have an exterminator come to your home. That could be costly. So if you take steps to make sure that your home is clean, that it's dry, if you have a lot of clutter around, you want to remove that, because clutter serves as a nest for mice. They like to live in that. They will, nest in that and thrive in that. So if you have clutter, you want to get rid of those things. You also want to starve them and parch them. So you want to eliminate any type of access to water. You want to eliminate all water sources. So you want to make sure if you have pets at home, you don't leave water and food down all day, because while you might be away or taking a nap, pests, if they see food and water, they will come down. You might want to cover your drains at night. If you have a leak, report that problem to your property owner right away. Otherwise, that could be a source for pests. They're like, oh, okay, let me just hang out here. I got all my food and water. So you want to make sure that you do get rid of garbage. You close it up. If you can't put it out, you want to make sure you keep it in a garbage can that has a lid until you can properly put out the garbage. So you don't want to leave dishes out overnight. So as well, tenants also have to do their part and maintain their residence. So it's just not the property owner. Tenants also have to do their part in their home. You also want to seal out pests. So if it's a good time to walk around, see if there are any holes or gaps anywhere in your apartment or home that needs to be sealed. And also, if you do have to use pesticides, you want to use safer pesticides. So for cockroaches, some people, you can put down boric acid. If you do opt to use that, you want to sprinkle a little bit, and you might want to put those areas like behind sofas or couches, especially if you have pets or if you have little kids over. You want to put it in areas where they're not able to get to, and you just need to sprinkle a little. You don't want to put down too much, because then that's not going to really help. There's also something called dionysus earth and silica. So that's natural occurring in the environment. And basically that has been effective as getting rid of cockroaches. You can also get gel bait, and you can put that around certain borders in your home where you have seen if there is an infestation. There's bait stations and sticky traps that you can use as well. So sticky traps are not only for mice, you can also put them down for insects, bugs, put them down. If you have a problem, they will stick to that. In terms of mice, you only want to use products that come in a tamper-proof container. You never want to use the loose baits that you put out, and the reason because they could be more hazardous to your health. You can also use snap traps and glue traps. And they also have humane methods where they have these traps you can look up online, where it will capture the rodents and then you can release them on your own. And like I said, that's a humane method if that's a way you choose. But just keep in mind, if you do have to use pesticides, make sure that you do follow the manufacturer label and use the ones marked for consumer use, and read and follow labels, you know, instruction. So if you do have a problem and you notice that you do see mice droppings in your home, you want to report that problem to your property owner. And if they don't fix the issue, you can always call 311 and put a complaint. So Housing Preservation Development, also known as HPD, can come out and inspect the area. And I just want to say one other thing before I just go to the next topic. You want to make sure that you do stay away from using any type of foggers or bombs. And there's a reason they have those names, because there has been instances, like a couple of years ago, there was a lady in Chinatown, she used foggers and she didn't use them correctly, and the whole building had collapsed. Thank God no one didn't get hurt. You also want to make sure that you do stay away from sprays, especially if you have respiratory issues. So you want to opt to these safer pesticide options. So I just want to put in that note. And also some of the things in terms of maintaining a safety home environment, especially for older adults, you want to make sure that you take precautions to prevent falls in a home. So you can follow these R's. The good thing with falls, they can be preventable. So you want to make sure that you remove any newspaper, books, clutter. If you have a throw rug, you want to make sure that it is taped down so it's not coming up. Also, you want to repair. So if you have any torn carpet or uneven flooring like you see in this picture, you want to make sure you have that repair. Also, you want to reduce any wire, cords, cables like that. You want to make sure that you avoid using a step stool to stand on, especially if it's not designed to be stand on, if it doesn't have your weight. If you have to use a step stool, you want to use the ones that have bars on both sides that you can hold on, and you want to make sure that it supports your weight. Some other ways you can improve your home and keep it safe, you want to make sure that you improve lighting in the home. So you might want to have uniform lamps lighting on both sides. So if one lamp goes out, you still have lighting on the other side. You could use night lights, lamps. So these are just some of the things you can do. Some people buy from the 99-cent store. They have those click-on lights that you can buy and use in case of, you know, if you got to get up to go to the bathroom at night and you don't want to turn on all the lights, you can just click on that little click-on light. And also, you just want to make sure that your home is safe. You want to make sure if you need to have grab bars put into your bathroom, on the tub, or near the toilet, that you do have that. When you're taking a shower, if you feel like you're going to fall, that you do get shower seats. You know, non-slip rubber threads in the bathroom. So this way, if you take a shower, you're not slipping and sliding. So that was some of the ways that you can stay safe. For time's sake, I'm just trying to want to make sure I get through everything. So some other things that you can do to maintain a safe environment in your home, you want to make sure that you do have safety devices installed. So what you should know, safety hazards can cause serious ill injury. Home safety devices can keep you and your family safe. So example, having window guards, smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. So you want to make sure if by law, property owners are responsible for installing carbon monoxide and smoke detectors in a home. But it's the tenant's responsibility to maintain those devices. So you want to make sure that you test them regularly. Sometimes they recommend you can change batteries according to daylight savings time, or when spring begins or when fall begins. They also have batteries now that last up to 8 years, but you still want to test regularly to make sure that your device is working correctly. And if you do hear that low battery warning, make sure you do change the battery. That is to let you know. And if you're cooking, sometimes people like to take out those batteries because they say it's constantly going off. Make sure you have ventilation when you're cooking. You don't want to put the smoke detector too close to the kitchen because it's going to constantly go off. So you want to have it in another area. Like I said, that is the one sound that may save your life. How many fires we see or hear where people didn't make it out because they didn't have smoke detectors. So it's very important, and you never want to paint over the smoke detector. Like I said, tenants are responsible for maintaining these devices. Some other safety tips, some other things you can do. You can keep a fire extinguisher in your home as well. With fire extinguisher, that's something you can purchase on your own. Property owners are not required by law to give that to tenants or have them in a home, but that's something on your own you can go and buy. They have different types, A, B, C combination. They put out different fires. So it's very important that you educate yourself if you're buying one, which type you need and how to operate it and use it. Like I said, you want to keep medication, cleaning products, and chemicals out of reach of children and pets. Keep them in high areas. Cabinet drawer with a safety latch. It's very important also to always keep the number to New York Poison Control Center. You can always call 211 poison, or you can always call 311 and ask to be transferred to poison control. They are staffed 7 days a week. They are staffed with nurses as well as pharmacists to take your question. If you don't speak English, they have access to the language line. So they can answer any type of questions. Let's say if you took more than one medications and you have concerns, or let's say if you use a chemical or some type of cleaning product, it got on your skin or it fell out, you can always call them and they can answer those type of questions. But if you have any type of emergencies, please make sure that you are calling 911. Some other safety devices you can have, window guards. So let's say if you have grandchildren that come over and if they're 10 years or younger, window guards are required. However, let's say if you're in a building and you don't have grandchildren or you don't have kids and you still want window guards, you can request that from your property owner and they should install them. You still have that right, even though there's no children in the home. Some people just feel safer with them. So you can request that. If the property owner doesn't respond, you can call 311. Property owners, they can still charge the tenant to have those devices installed. So just so you know, window guards or stops should not be installed, should be installed in all windows in your apartment set the windows lead into fire escape. So if you do request to have them, and if you don't have no younger children, they should not be placed in window where it's fire escape or in a fire emergency. Property owners are the only ones that are responsible for the installation and maintenance of window guards. It should never be the tenant responsibility. And the reason why is because you want to make sure they are installed safely and correctly. Some people like to take their ACs in and out. That's something that the super or property owner should be doing. Let's just see. And so in terms of the presentation, I just also want to let you know, if you do know someone and they would like to request a presentation or to find more about our community presentation, they can always email us at healthyhomesecp@health at .nyc.gov. You can also call us at Healthy Homes 646-632-6023. We are here Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 4:30 to take any calls you have regarding environmental issues in the home. If you have any questions, need any type of education, we are here to assist you. After hours, you can leave a voice message. We'll get back to you the next business day. And if you don't speak English, we do have access to the language line. And like I said, don't worry if you did not get to take down any information, we will share this with you. We also have monthly webinars for the summer that we offer monthly, where we go over different health issues or environmental issues in the home. So you can always look at our website and you can join that. You'll get a certificate for attending. And these are just some of our different key resources that we have online. A popular one we have is how to get rid of mold in the home. We also have information safeguarding healthy homes. So that one addresses all the different environmental issues that we cover. And we have some of these brochures in different languages. We have the hard copies you can look at online, or if you're someone and would like to have more information, you can always request. We can send out different copies, multiple copies. And these are some of different key resources in terms of healthy home information. Also, if you live in NYCHA and you have a problem, you would need to call NYCHA's maintenance. They have their own customer contact center, so you would need to call them, and that number is 718-707-7771. We also have FDNY education. So if you'd like to know more about smoke detectors, carbon monoxide, they do have a program where they can come out to your home. And if you don't have smoke detectors, carbon monoxide, and they will install them in your home for you free of no charge. So these are some different key resources. Because of time, I won't be able to go over all of them. But like I said, we will send this to you. And this is also some additional multi-language education materials we have. And if you do need to contact us, this is our information right here. And we also, within the slides, you'll get some links where you can see the different areas where you can go for the different brochures. So we have these resources for you. We have information regarding the Healthy Neighborhoods Program, HNP, which I discussed earlier. If someone does have a problem, like I said, with chronic asthma and a problem with mold or a pest in the home, they can find the information here. We have information if someone does have asthma, different fact sheet regarding the different triggers and how they can control that. And this is just if you would like to request a presentation. This is our information. You go to our Speakers Bureau, put in your requests. And you can also follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Tumblr. So I just want to say thank you for allowing us to come and present. And thank you. Hopefully you were able to learn something new. And I always say, if the information didn't apply to you, maybe you know someone who can benefit. Thank you.
Thank you both, Denise and Tonya. That was so much valuable information. And again, the slides and the resource materials that Department of Health has available. I actually learned an amazing amount, so thank you. And I will say you'll be back when we get to the Q&A. The sheer number of questions coming in guarantees me two things. One, people really have issues they want to deal with. And two, we won't possibly get to even a quarter of the questions. But for everybody who's watching and for everybody who's written in questions and is still writing in questions to the Q&A, you know, we've answered quite a bit of the questions already with Tonya and Denise's presentation. But there also are so many resources available and different divisions, even within Department of Health, who can be helpful. So if your question doesn't get answered today, please review the materials. And you're all computer accessible because you're watching us today, which means you're also going to be able to download and look at the materials on the different subsections of the city government websites that are being referenced. And with that, I'm now going to pass it over to our final presenter, Joseph Schofield, Senior Staff Attorney, New York Legal Assistance Group, who's going to provide an overview of the conditions your landlord is required to address relating to the health and safety of your apartment. Good morning, Joseph.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us. So
I'm going to get my presentation up here. I was so pleased by Denise and Tonya's presentation. One, because it ended to the minute, right on time. I hope I can be as good with time. And two, they've done so much of my presentation for me. The basic overview of taking reasonable steps yourself, informing the landlord of the condition, and then calling 311, that's what we're going to be talking about through the entire presentation. Those are absolutely the appropriate steps to escalate an issue, because the ultimate goal for everyone, really everyone should be on the same team. We want the conditions fixed. We want people to live in safe homes. So my presentation is really brief, maybe only 10-15 minutes, about how to legally advocate for healthy housing. I work for a unit at the New York Legal Assistance Group called Legal Health. It's a medical legal partnership. So all of the work I do is at various public hospitals or private hospitals in the city. I have a clinic at South Brooklyn Health, which was traditionally known as Coney Island Hospital. I have a clinic at Mount Sinai, and then I have a clinic at the Maimonides, an outpatient site for Maimonides. So I'm all over the city. And the way our unit works is that social workers, care coordinators, health coaches can refer patients with legal issues to talk to us about a really wide variety of civil legal issues. So I won't have information for how you can reach me directly because all of my cases come through clinic sites. But in general, if you ever have a legal issue, it's very, very likely that you can speak to a social worker who can connect you to a legal health clinic through the hospital system, through whatever medical umbrella, whatever system that you're in. If you have a care coordinator or a health coach or a social worker, there's a very decent chance you could be connected to a legal health attorney. Good health requires good housing. This has been the subject of the last hour. Obviously, in a lot of very obvious ways, low housing standards contribute to poor health. There are clear ways that this happens in terms of pests, infestation, mold, heat, and cooling. There are obvious ways in which this affects our health, but there's also less obvious ways. There are more serious conditions that are hard to see that that health affects our lives in many ways. So while we're focusing more on conditions, specific repair issues, even just unstable housing can have a significant effect on people's lives. A lot of studies back this up. I mean, so much of this is intuitive that there is a strong connection between childhood development and childhood health and housing quality. But there's also a less obvious connection between housing and health in that people with unstable housing also experience a lot of negative health impacts. If you have to move often, or if you're afraid of having to move often, even just the threat of unstable housing has an impact on people's lives. And so the work we do, and really what I think everyone at this seminar is committed to, is not just having people safe and secure and healthy in their homes, but also making those homes stable, helping people stay in their homes, helping lower and prevent eviction wherever we can. It's not the main subject, but I wanted to get on my soapbox for that for a minute. So the first question we have with landlord obligations, there are general rules, but there's also very specific rules depending on the kind of housing you live. So there's lots of different places that people live in the city. There's private unregulated rental apartments. There's privately owned rent stabilized or rent regulated or even rent controlled apartments. There's the New York City Housing Authority, NYCHA, or public housing. There's also all sorts of other subsidized housing through other smaller programs, such as HUD or Housing and Urban Development, the feds, Mitchell-Lamas, HPD housing, and also in some very rare cases, tenant-owned buildings. There's also the Department of Homeless Services or DHS shelter systems, and there's owner-occupied housing. Now, most of what we're going to be addressing today is for where there is a traditional landlord-tenant relationship. We're talking about the landlord's obligations to the tenants. But there are some other housing relationships that exist. For example, owner-occupied housing. If you own a private home, a private single-family home, it's intuitive and obvious that you are responsible as the homeowner for the maintenance of that home. But there's less obvious situations like a co-op, where you're in a cooperative unit where you pay maintenance, and the rules of who is responsible for what can be a little different in co-ops than it can be for landlord-tenant situations. I know we got a Q&A question on that, so I am going to talk about it more, but in the next slide, we just give a rough breakdown. So this image shows the breakdown of rental units specifically. So this is not all housing in the city. These are rental units. And the takeaway here is that it's roughly half rent stabilized and half not rent regulated. Half rent stabilized, half regulated. Looking even bigger, of all the houses, of all the types of residences where people live in the city, there's approximately 2/3 are rentals and 1/3 are owner occupied. Of the rentals, half are stabilized, half are private. We have 1/3 of people in the city living in rent stabilization, 1/3 of people living in private unregulated apartments, and 1/3 of people who live in some kind of owner occupied housing. It's a rough breakdown, but it's useful because that tells us that most of the information from today's presentation about the warranty of habitability, about the basic duty that landlords owe to tenants, that's going to apply to at least 2 out of 3 people in the city. About 2 out of 3 residences in the city are going to be covered by that basic duty of the warranty of habitability. We've already seen a lot of examples today of housing conditions that harm health. Here's more examples. Of course, a non-exhaustive list includes the lack of heat, peeling paint, infestations, leaks and mold, or broken detectors. Any of these conditions that we see here, these are things that you'd want to immediately address with the landlord. And if a resolution doesn't occur fairly quickly, call 311. The basic duty that is owed by landlords to tenants in the city, in the state, is the warranty of habitability. This is a law that is found in the real property law. It's implied in every lease. So even if a tenant had a lease with their landlord that said, that tried to limit the right to repair, the warranty of habitability would apply anyway. It is an implied agreement that applies to every landlord-tenant relationship in the city. And what it says is that housing owners must ensure that buildings are safe, clean, and well-maintained in both common areas and in individual apartments, that individual apartments do not contain conditions potentially hazardous to health, and must provide and maintain security measures, heat, hot and cold water, and good lighting for tenants. What steps should you take if the warranty of habitability is being breached? So 1, notify the landlord. This can be done by any way that you communicate, but writing is almost always better than not in writing. If you do communicate in phone or in person, you can and should follow up with some form of written communication. You want to start very early on, building as much of a paper trail as you can. It's entirely appropriate. It's not rude. And in fact, it shows that you're a proactive person who's aware of their own rights for you to follow up with a phone call or an in-person conversation with a letter or an email that says, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. As we discussed, I have this condition in my apartment. Please work with me to get it resolved as soon as possible. You can memorialize in writing any conversation you have with a super or management agent or the landlord themselves. The next step, if the landlord isn't making efforts to resolve the situation, if they haven't sent the super for an inspection, or if the condition isn't fixed in a reasonable amount of time, you call 311. It's very important after 311 to allow the inspectors into the apartment. The worst case scenario is when there's disputes about access, or if the inspectors can't inspect the apartment to see what the condition is. When you call 311 to make a complaint, the complaint gets routed to the city office, HPD. It's been mentioned a lot today, Housing Preservation and Development. Finally, if 311 still hasn't resolved the issue, if there are violations that are issued by HPD and the landlord still hasn't resolved the condition, you can and should enforce your rights through court, through housing court. Housing court isn't only a place where landlords can take tenants, it is a place where tenants can take landlords. HP action, what HP stands for is the housing part. I'm looking at my watch and can tell I'm running out of time, but I have to share that when Housing Court was originally founded, it was founded as a place for tenants to bring their landlords. In the decades since, it has morphed into a place where it's mostly for landlords to try to evict tenants. But at its heart, the reason that Housing Court was originally invented was to be a place where tenants could have their rights enforced. And it still is, but it's just not the majority of cases that are brought there. At every step of this process, Just Fix is a nonprofit organization that we've worked with a lot. Just Fix is a great tool. Just Fix has a lot of really helpful resources in English and Spanish, and they can help you generate letters to request repairs, organize your own photos of the conditions, and prepare documents for filing in court should that become necessary. There's also some other benefits that are great that are not the subject of today, like looking up the rent stabilized status of your apartment or requesting your rent history. But Just Fix can be a really helpful ally in keeping yourself organized so that if you do need to escalate, you can. Making a complaint to a private landlord, you call 311, you allow access, you will get a tenant copy of the inspection, and you want to hold on to that. You want to hold on to all these papers. And then HPD will send a notice of violation to the landlord that gives them a certain amount of time to fix, and then things happen if they don't. Landlords can incur quite significant fines if they don't resolve violations in your apartment. And that's why 311 is one of the most powerful tools, because the tenant's complaint and the duty to provide a safe house should be enough motivation. Some landlords need more. And for those landlords, the violation is the motivation. Complaining to NYCHA is slightly different. You need to call the customer care center and submit a ticket that way. You can still call 311. Many of those calls are going to be routed to the customer call center anyway, but where in doubt, you don't need to break down what kind of housing you're in. call 311. NYCHA also has very specific rules about remediating mold. There was a big case against them. But if you live in NYCHA, you're aware of the additional challenges of getting repairs done in NYCHA in a timely fashion. That is not to say don't try. That is to say try more. Submit more tickets, call 311 again. Very quickly, I've already addressed the court action, but this is the final escalation. This is, you've called 311, there are violations, they still haven't been fixed. In court, you could get an order from a judge where the judge orders the landlord to repair the conditions. And the HP is an interesting kind of case because it's not only you versus the landlord, it's actually you and an attorney from HPD and the landlord. So there's three parties because the city itself, HPD recognizes they have an interest in maintaining safe and habitable housing in the city. Finally, we were part of a study years ago that just broke down tenants with asthma who were referred to legal services and who weren't. And over the course of the study, the half that did have legal intervention ended up with better health outcomes. So advocating for yourself, asking for help, making these complaints does make an actual difference in health outcomes. There are a lot of Q&As that I think we'll get to a lot, and I've prepared some answers, but I do want us to address them kind of in the order that they came. These resources will be shared also. These are all great. Much of them come from HPD. And now I think it's time for broader questions. See, I knew Denise and Tonya were better on time. I'm 3 minutes late, but thank you.
Okay, it was well worth the 3 extra minutes. Thank you very much, Joseph. And we're going to invite Tonya and Denise to turn on their video and unmute themselves as well, so that we're all here to try to answer some questions. So again, we'll send a follow-up email with links to this event video, all of the resources listed in the chat, as well as the presenters' PowerPoint presentations from the Department of Health. We're going to start with questions that were sent ahead of time. And I know quite a few of the questions that have been coming in Q&A, presenters or my staff have been able to answer right there for you on Q&A. Again, there's lots more questions than we're going to get to, but there are so many good resources that are being made available by all 3 of our presenters that I'm pretty confident that when you have a chance to look through after this webinar in a day or so, when you get all the materials, you're actually going to find answers to the questions that you didn't get verbally today. So on that note, there was quite a bit of discussion about mold, and so I'm not going to go into that many questions about it, but people were concerned about if their health consequence is not asthma, but something else, are the same government agencies and the landlord obligated to respond, or do we only recognize that asthma is the problem with mold?
It's both. The asthma, what specifically applies is all of these really strong mold laws apply in buildings of 3 or more units, what are called multiple dwellings, but they also apply to any size, to a single unit, if someone in the residence has asthma. So asthma is a plus, it's not a requirement.
Got it. If there are other mold problems, even if there's not an asthma condition, there's still supposed to be responses.
And the general warranty of habitability applies to all residences, all landlord-tenant relationships anyways. That always applies. And if there's black mold on the wall, it doesn't matter what size apartment, you don't need to worry about that. You can complain, you should complain, you can call 311. The only difference is this extra powerful law, Local Law 55, adds extra requirements to buildings of a certain size. but most of us do live in multiple dwellings. So it's not too important to worry about that distinction. Just complain anyway.
Yeah, and I just
yes.
wanted to add one thing. In order, if your property owner does not fix the problem and you do make a complaint to 311, just keep in mind, in order for HPD to come out, it has to be visible mold. Because sometimes we get calls where people say, I can smell walls. I mean, they can smell mold is in their walls, or it might be someplace else. There's a strong smell of it. In order for a HPD to come out, it has to be visible mold. So if you just have mold, like little small areas in the, let's say in the bathroom on the tiles or around the tub, they really won't come out and do anything for that, because they say that's something where the tenant can fix theirself. But however, if there's black mold growing on walls and it's visible, that is something that they will respond to. So just please keep that in mind.
So I guess this is a legal question. I once had a constituent who was sure there was mold behind his walls, but he didn't see it. So he punched a hole in the wall and there was lots of mold behind the wall. But I'm not sure he broke some kind of rule when he punched the hole in the wall. What do you think, Joseph?
I don't recommend punching holes in the wall.
Fine, thank you.
But separate issues. So if he can individually do something that's not great, I would say, you know, without encouraging people, I encourage people not to damage the property.
Right.
That is the tenant's responsibility not to do that, in the way that it's the landlord's responsibility to provide safe housing. And just because one person fails in their duty doesn't mean that tenants can fail in theirs. What I will say,
yes.
Well, yeah, of course.
No,
But
he didn't ask me in advance. He just asked. He told me afterwards.
Of course. What I will say though, to Denise's point about the visible mold, is that if you're experiencing a mold issue, it's not the first time, and it's likely that this has happened again and again, and that's why keeping documentation, keeping photos is so important, so that if there is a visible mold issue and it's painted over and the root of the problem isn't addressed, and then it comes back later, you're in a more powerful position to get a solid fix if you have the proof from the last time. You're more likely to get significant help from the Healthy Neighborhood program if you have proof that, well, now there's only a smell, but before it was on the wall.
Great.
Develop a record.
Develop a record. That's always critical on everything with housing. So this is an elderly person concerned that their lights are on chains and they lose their balance attempting to turn them on and off. And they're also, wooden floors have no finish and splinter easily, and they can't walk barefoot. Are those things that the landlord's obligated to fix for them?
Okay, this was a really good question, and I did prepare an answer for it. So there are sometimes a bit of a gray zone between what constitutes a repair and what constitutes a renovation that the landlord could potentially get extra rent for in rent stabilization. These are two good examples to draw the line a little bit, where the wooden splintery floor is an obvious safety condition that must be addressed. That's not to say the floor must be replaced, but the splinters need to be addressed. The floor may need to be refinished. You having a safe floor that you can walk on is absolutely a repair condition that needs to be addressed to be habitable. The pull chains, I don't think are necessarily a repair that has to be fully replaced, but I want to approach it from a different direction, which is that if using the lights creates a hazard to you because of your own mobility issue or some kind of disability, then this is a great reasonable accommodation request. And you should request that the kind of lighting is changed as an accommodation of your medical or disability need.
Great, thank you. All right, so there's many questions about lead. But I guess I'll start with, is the Department of Health or a different city agency that then requires the landlord schedule an appointment to have the apartment inspected, as opposed to the landlord inspecting the apartment for lead paint? Who is responsible for checking to see whether you have a lead paint problem. That Department of Health or HPD or anybody, ladies, gentlemen?
I'm sorry, Denise, I see you
You're
talking,
muted.
but I don't hear you.
Yeah, we don't hear you, Denise. Maybe you're still on mute.
Can't hear you.
Oh, there you are. Oh, no, that's Tonya.
Can everyone hear me now? Okay,
Yes.
sorry about that. So what happens is when tenants move into an apartment and annually they are given a notice. So that notice will let them know if there are children in the home younger than 6. So if someone has children in the home, there is pill and paint. Property owners are responsible for fixing that paint. If they do not fix the paint, what happens is a tenant can call 311, put in a complaint, HPD will come out, they will do testing. If the home does test positive for lead, property owners are given 21 days to correct that issue. And during that time, property owners have to hire a certified EPA contractor. EPA stands for Environmental Protection Agency. So those are the only contractors that are certified to do lead abatement in the home. Also, the other way where the health department will get involved in terms of with lead is if someone takes a child to the doctor and if their lead test results come back 3.5 or above, which is a level of concern, then the doctor has to automatically notify the Department of Health within 24 hours, which then, we become involved. The family will be set up with a nurse and an inspector who then will go out and then they'll do a full inspection because they have to find out what is the source of lead, because it may not only come from pill and paint, there could be other sources.
And when they come out, thank you very much. Do they test for the possibility of lead in water? Because my understanding is we also have lead pipes in some older buildings where, the water comes in from the street without lead, but by the time it gets to you, I may have lead in it. Is anybody inspecting for that?
So two things. So like if HPD goes out, normally they will just, let's say, they will test the walls. But when the health department inspectors go out, they will test everything because they have to find the source of lead. But since we know that there are older tenement buildings and houses, and some of them may contain pipes that may have lead, anyone at any time can always call 311 and request a free water drinking test kit where they have instructions where you can, they'll tell you when to test the water. You send back the samples and they will let you know the results. In the event, if you do find out your water to test positive for lead, then you can follow up with DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection. They have their own separate lead unit and they can advise you of different things of what to do. So that's why it's very important that, before you use your water in the morning, you want to make sure that you do run it for a little bit, maybe like a minute, until you know that it's colder. And, you want to just make sure that you use cold water for cooking, making baby formula. So if anyone that has any concerns, please feel free to call 311 and request that water drinking test kit. And on our website, I know for today, we didn't address like the lead, but we can always come back and do a lead presentation, or you can always visit our website and we have a bunch of different information concerning lead regarding children, pregnant women, and adults who might work in that field. We have a lot of information regarding that.
Thank you. And there are a bunch of lead questions. That was really the only one I was going to touch on right now. But yes, there's a lot of information out there about lead and what can be done. All right, moving on to rodents and other pests. So, and that was addressed partly. So this is a fascinating question that someone lives in a 52-unit rent-regulated building, and there are sometimes rodents and cockroaches. For the record, in my opinion, after living in New York City most of my life, there is not one building where you do not sometimes have rodents and cockroaches. There is no Band-Aid proofing yourself from them completely. But the question is, they're in a rent-regulated building and the exterminator comes and says the landlord will only pay for 5 apartments per month. even if all 52 units are having a problem. Is there any legal argument, Joseph, that that's not okay? You can't
Yes.
deal with 5 apartments when you've got maybe 25 complaining.
First of all, I just want to validate, I'm sure this happens, and I'm sure, and I know for a fact some exterminators are hired on a do it until you get to 10 basis. This does happen. So first of all, the warranty of habitability absolutely applies to infestations. Definitely, in this case, where you know the landlord's not really operating in good faith, call 311. Even if the exterminator came every week to every apartment, if the infestation is still there, that's what matters. What matters is that the home is pest-free, not how often the exterminator comes. But separately, this is also a really good example of something called a reduction in services in a rent-stabilized building that could qualify you and the rest of your building for a building-wide rent reduction because the exterminator used to come more often and now is coming less. So this is something to consider going to DHCR to complain about the decrease in extermination services.
Great. And then I think the next one is probably more for Department of Health. So yes, there are all kinds of pesticides and other products that can be used for extermination, but people are very conscious, and they should be, about the chemical dangers and environmental dangers of certain kinds of traditional products. Without saying that we're marketing for any specific companies, does the Department of Health recommend specific products that they do think are safer for the environment or safer for people with health concerns, people with children in the home, people with pets? Is there some master list anywhere of those kinds of products?
So we actually don't have like a master list, or like I said, because we do work for the city, we can't
Yes.
promote any items. But this is why we do look for safer methods of pesticides or pest control. So we recommend, if you do have a problem, that you look for like gel baits. You might want to use the sticky traps, something where you're not spraying stuff in the air, stuff that could be more harmful for you, and not only just for humans as well. Certain pets can be allergic to some of those different products. So you want to, like I said, you want to stick to stuff like they have the gel you could put down, the glue traps. You know, is very important. That's why it is important to keep your home clean and to eliminate clutter, because if pests, if they don't have food and water, they don't have shelter, they're going to go somewhere else. You know, I know it's a big city, we can't avoid having it, but as a tenant, you can also do your part as well. So you can also go online and you can also research safer methods to control pests. You can also visit our website, and as well, it will list certain things you can also use. Like I mentioned, you can also use something called boric acid, where it's a powder. You don't want to apply too much because then it will be ineffective, and you can put that down. Anything else, maybe,
Oh,
Tonya?
and just also to share that the New York City Department of Health, we also go out and we shop the markets. So while we might not tell you what you should use, we also will tell you what you should not be using. So we will put out health warnings. So for instance, there is currently a health warning out on a product called Sniper. Again, we shop the market. We found these products that are being sold on the street. So when we go out and we do our public education, we are providing this information. So one product that we will tell you not to use is Sniper. So while we can't tell you what to use, we can definitely ensure that your family and your house is safe by telling you what not to use. So one product, again, is Sniper, which we go out and we shop the market and we visit these neighborhoods and we see that it's being sold. We will tell you not to use this product because it can put you in danger.
Great. Thank you. Okay, continuing on. It's interesting because years ago, the only thing people wanted to talk about were bed bug problems. And now nobody actually wrote in with a bed bug problem. And so maybe that's not as much an issue anymore. Remember, we took this pesticide off the market that was killing bed bugs, but was killing us also. And then there seemed to be a crisis and they were everywhere. And now they seem to be decreasing. But a bunch of people asked about moths. Is there anything specific that anyone knows about moth infestation? I know mothballs, right? The old-fashioned mothballs.
Yeah, that I would actually have to do some research, and I can at a later time
Okay.
let you know what I find out.
Okay,
The pine
yes,
blocks are
please.
good.
Ah,
You can get
that's
those
right.
little
You can
pine
buy
blocks
these
on a
pine
hanger.
blocks. You can put them in the closet. And mothballs smell distinctly unattractive, but that's apparently actually why they keep the moths away. And I don't think they have an environmental problem. And they're very inexpensive, but you have to deal with the fact that everything you own will smell like mothballs for a while.
But in
Okay.
terms of legal requirements, moths can be in that broad umbrella of pest. And
Yeah.
so it's a pretty good example of take reasonable steps where you can, you know, try to have solutions in your own closet first before inviting a third party to get into your clothes. But
Yeah.
if necessary, you can complain to the landlord.
Okay. Oh, there's so many questions and there's like 3 minutes left. So going to air quality. If you think that there's a serious air quality problem, and perhaps you are aware that nobody has cleaned any kind of filters in a centralized air system, is there a way to test for air quality before you're making a complaint? So, you know, we already learned about lead and how they and mold and how people can come. Is the Department of Health or HPD or somebody also reviewing air quality complaints inside apartments?
So if someone does have a problem with air quality, they are have concerns, they can always call 311 and put in a complaint for unsafe air quality, and depending, you know, they'll get the complaint will be sent over, and then they will evaluate it from there. So if someone does have concerns, poor air quality or something like that, they can call 311 and put in a complaint.
And one example that was used in the questions was a gas stove. So I'll just put in my 2 cents. We are suddenly learning that gas stoves emit dangerous emissions that are actually correlated to asthma among children and older people, and that it's at a much higher level than people understood. And so I work a lot on environmental issues, and we're trying to get everybody off oil and gas as quickly as possible for endless climate and health reasons. But please do be aware that I'm not telling everybody to go out and throw out their gas stoves or that they have to replace them. I'm not, and I don't believe landlords are obligated to do so. But please be aware that ventilation in your kitchen is pretty crucial if you're using your gas burners frequently, because particularly if you have asthma or your children have asthma, because it's very, very recently that there's been scientific research coming out about how serious a problem this is. And we just haven't known about it. And we've been using gas stoves forever, often in rooms without ventilation. I don't know if anybody else has anything else to share about that, since it's pretty new that it's all been coming out in the scientific literature. Okay, so with that, since we are actually literally at like 11:43, I am going to thank our guests so much for all the incredible information. The presentations were wonderful, the materials and the resources. Again, just want to emphasize to everyone who's watching, the resource list that we're going to be forwarding to you are so valuable and very sub-specific to the kinds of questions you actually were asking us today that we could not get to. I'm looking now, the Q&A now has 39 questions in it that I can guarantee you we did not get to them all. There were more specific questions asked that we also could not get to. So again, thank you so much, Denise, Tonya, and Joseph, for being with us this morning. And I want to let everybody watching know that our next virtual web event will be on financial planning. We're doing a series scheduled for Tuesday, September 5th and September 12th and September 19th from 7 to 8 p.m. at night. We're giving you August off, everyone. And we will cover some financial literacy topics, including the basics of investing, credit, and income tax planning, because it's amazing how many people are not as financially literate as they should be in today's complicated world. And we're going to be having targeted information, both for older people, but also for young people just starting out in life, not yet understanding the impact of building up credit card debt with enormous interest rates, and even the concept of when you start to save money, compound interest can make your money grow. So we do live in a complex world. It keeps getting more complex, and we want to make sure that people have some of the basic tools we think everyone should have, regardless of their age, on financial literacy. And on a separate note, not related to anything but my own personal view, don't get yourself caught up in cryptocurrency. You're going to end up losing your money. That can be a topic for another day. I want to thank you all so much for your participation. And remember, everyone, stay cool and keep drinking water in this insane heat. Take care, everyone. Bye.